Fucking muted the mic. Now I'm unmuted. Well, at least it was only like 50 seconds, not 30 fucking minutes like last time. Oh, let's crack a lackin'. Alright, so we're doing another live video, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be reacting to another video that I found called Microtransactions Are Good for Video Games, and let me explain why microtransactions done right. This video was done 5 years ago, and normally I would wait for people to show up, but no one showed up on the last one, so we're just going to roll with it, and if people show up, alright? I will, however, do a quick little pausey-dawsey in terms of... I'll at least share the new live stream that's rolling ahead. Pause it. Copy that link, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go to Twitter. Here, I'll even let you see it. There we go. I was like, what's going on? All right. Another live stream. We'll tweet that out. No hashtags, no ats. We're just tweeting it. Whatever. All right, and then we're going to actually go back to the old YouTube channel. And we're going to come to the community tab. And here we are. Another live stream. All right. Okay, we have been announced, ladies and gentlemen. So now, let's do this. We're actually going to come over here. We're going to jump straight up into this video. Let's increase that bad boy size. Make sure I have everything hopefully set up. And let's see what this gentleman has to say on why microtransactions are good for video games. And let me explain why.
So have you ever gone over to the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, made a purchase over on Steam, or gone up to the beloved Walmart to piss away $60 on a game, bring it home, and hate the game, but then you go to return it,
Nope.
and you can't get your money back for a game that was released with a bunch of bugs and is not fun to play? Warframe is a great example
so let me give you an example.
Free...
I did purchase Cyberpunk. Obviously, that game was fucking broken. But the game, well, I played on the PlayStation 4 at the time, only crashed maybe once or twice in a day when I was playing it. It was annoying, but it was sufferable, okay? Still garbage they released the game in that state, but it wasn't like, oh, I need to take this back and get my money back because... yeah, I bought it at GameStop, so they're not going to give me my money back because it's opened. I would only be able to trade it in, and I wouldn't get that much money in the first place. I could attempt to sold it on eBay, but I still wouldn't been able to get a whole lot of money back. I would have got more from eBay than GameStop, but there still would have been a loss there. So usually if I make a mistake in buying a game day one or the day after... never happened when I've pre-ordered a game because, well, when I pre-order games, I have confidence in those particular publishers, depending on what the publisher is and what the game is and the developer. And that's what I ultimately feel that when it comes into context of people saying don't pre-order games, it's like it's not about pre-ordering games. It's about making sure you pre-order the correct games and stay away from the ones that you know the publishers or the developers have a bad reputation.
To play game with financial incentives done very, very well. It focuses a lot on team aspects. In essence, you can play the game completely.
You can get
without
woodlogged
spending
from
a
smashing
single
up
dime. Every
roof.
single aspect of
funny.
Warframe
They should have been
is
planks.
available, and it is 100% free unless you make the decision to buy one of those microtransactions. You could save some time by making purchases. This could in turn further benefit your team. The game is constantly praised for its lack of randomness in its in-game store and fracture. The player knows exactly what they are getting when they are making purchases. You're not going for some random drop such as Destiny 2 with the beloved Test Eververse, where you go and buy a microtransaction and it is random. Fortnite is another example of a game that does microtransactions correctly. These games are free. You can download them, try them. If you like it, you can keep it. If you don't like it, you can remove it from your console.
I don't play modern day free-to-play games because I find that microtransactions are too egregious within of itself. And Fortnite, I don't know, I just kind of think it's overrated. But then again, it's also really not my cup of tea. I've never really been an FPS or third-person shooter kind of guy myself. So there's another reason why I really wouldn't try most free-to-play shooter games out. As opposed to RPGs, yes, I've played some of those back in the day. Even a few free-to-play ones that did have microtransactions in them. But they weren't as egregious as they are now. In fact, I used to play Star Trek Online, which was a paid subscription at the time. And then they became free-to-play, which I then, maybe about 2-3 years ago, managed to get access to my account, contacting the company, yada, yada, yada. And I probably played it for maybe a week or so. And then I was like, you know what, this is dumb. There's just too many microtransactions. Fuck this garbage game. And I have not went back to it, even though I did spend the initial $60 on purchasing the game, unlike everyone now who gets it for free. And I had to put money into it in terms of a subscription when it first came out. So, you know, waste not, want not, I guess.
You can remove it from your PC. It seems like microtransactions are the talk of the town. Star Wars Battlefront 2's review bomb definitely showed that microtransactions were done horribly incorrectly inside of that game. That game cost you $60 though. Microtransactions can be a good thing. I like microtransactions. I like playing free games. And I like to try games that I can just remove from my console, that I can just remove from my PC. It's all up to the developers whether they do them in a good way or whether they do them in a bad way.
The only thing I'm going to say in caveat to
is
his
similar to
response
Warframe.
of he likes microtransactions is hopefully he's referring to cosmetics. I think they're garbage in any case. But hopefully he's referring to cosmetics and not pay to win or pay to make it easy. Because then that would make him a fucking idiot.
You're not required to spend money in order to properly compete with other players. If you'd like to play the game less, you'd benefit from spending money, but the game gives you daily quests which allow you to earn gold the old-fashioned way. The in-game purchases do not take the fun away from those who do not want to spend any money on the game. Unlike Warframe.
Okay, so I will, interject here. I would say, as a person who does not care for microtransactions in any facet that thereof, especially what we call modern day microtransactions, even in a free-to-play game or a multiplayer game, I think they're garbage. They're done incorrectly. So the fact that maybe there are a couple of games that do it correctly and players can play the game without, feeling like that they're being forced to grind in order to level up, to progress, or forced to grind and hopefully they'll just get irritated and just, purchase the microtransactions. I would say that is something in this modern age that it's fresh to hear, that even though there are games out there that have microtransactions in them, so obviously we're talking free-to-play games, that the ones that aren't egregious, that you can play the game without ever actually having to spend a single microtransaction, is an okay thing. Like, I'm a huge RPG person. There's, what's that game called? Genshin Impact, all right? I downloaded it, tried it, but from what I hear, you can play that game without any microtransactions. It doesn't really gatekeep you at any point. However, I just got tired of seeing ads for the microtransactions, so that's why I stopped playing. I don't know if they, fixed that so it's not as egregious, but yeah. So I also would state that, it really depends on two things for me when it comes to an online game that's free to play, has microtransactions in it. Is one, can I play that game without feeling like I have to grind or I'm trying to be forced into purchasing microtransactions? Or two, am I going to be bombarded by 5 billion fucking ads for your microtransactions? Because both of those are a turnoff and utter garbage to me.
Frame, Hearthstone uses its randomness to its advantage. It's a deck building game, and much like buying Pokemon cards, you never know what you're going to get. It diverts as much as possible from the dreaded pay-to-win moneymaker. A game is supplemented by advertisements or small purchases. This business model is most common in mobile games. If you own an Android device, if you own some sort of a smartphone, if you are one of those people that pissed away $600 on an Apple phone, then good for you. Those also have microtransactions. Games need to make money, especially now in 2018, in order for those developers to make back their investment of both time and resources needed to create a good, enjoyable experience inside of that game.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a caveat to what he just said. One, that depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking a free-to-play game, then yes, what he said is an accurate statement, makes sense. If we're talking a paid game, whether it's online, multiplayer, whether it's single player with a multi-online portion, then he is objectively incorrect. All right? And the reason why I say this is that I got distracted. Let me rewind.
18, in order for those developers to make back their
Okay. Brain fart over, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the reason why I say that is because, one, a lot of people use this excuse about game developers needing to make money. And that's why microtransactions exist. Well, if game developers need to make money from microtransactions, why aren't more indie developers doing it? Because that's the argument, right? Is that developers aren't making enough money. But the only companies that seem to be doing microtransactions are the big AAAs. Or what we could even classify, if we were to use a film industry term, a B developer, from a B type movie. Those are the only two that use microtransactions. And again, if we're talking purely free to play, makes sense. I could agree that, yes, they're releasing the game free to play. That's why the microtransactions are there. So they're going to want to make money from that aspect. Now, how they handle those microtransactions and how egregious or under egregious the prices are will ultimately define whether or not we could consider that game to be good. If it doesn't feel like a grind, and I don't feel like I have to be forced to purchase some microtransactions in order to get or unlock something in that free-to-play game, then it's good. Hopefully I just said that right. Let me give a caveat here real quick, all right? So if I can play the game and not feel like it's a grind and being forced to purchase stuff, it's good. If it's the opposite of that, it's garbage, whether we're talking free to play or not. I would then even say that they don't deserve to make their money back because there's a line, because I come from an age where free to play games were a thing. I played them back in the day. I even purchased a few what we would call microtransactions before microtransactions was even a term, usually cosmetics. And they were, 99 cents, $1.99 way back in the fucking day. Now we're getting cosmetics that are $5, $20, $15, $70. I think there's even a spaceship for one of these space games, not No Man's Sky, the other one that's still in development, been in development for 10 years. It's like $1,000. That automatically makes that game garbage. If you're playing that game, you're a fucking idiot. I don't care if you don't buy any microtransactions in that game. You play that game, you're a fucking idiot. But when it comes to single player games, no. There's no excuse that, hey, we need to do this. This is how we make money, because indie developers don't do that. They don't make microtransactions. And we're not talking mobile indie developers. We're talking actual indie developers, such as, the people that develop Journey, as an example. No microtransactions in that game. Why? Because they're clearly making money from what they previously did. So again, yeah.
Investment of both time and resources needed to create a good, enjoyable
there's two people watching.
experience
Can you hear
inside
me
of that
clearly?
game. When a game
the
goes
video?
free to play, the microtransactions is how they are going to make their money.
Make sure my mic
A
isn't
free
muted.
to play game needs to make money, and microtransactions can either bring people into the game if it is a good game, and it will make people leave if it is a bad game.
True.
This is why I like microtransactions. Fortnite is one of the most praised
I am
games
so
out there
conflicted.
right now.
This is, I think, the second time I've heard him say he likes microtransactions. I'm so conflicted hearing a gamer say that. Oh man, it just seems wrong. Oh, granted, he did specify he's referring to free-to-play games, so that's why I'm not going gamer rant on his ass. Oh, it's just so weird to hear a gamer say that they like microtransactions.
And I would imagine that most people, every single game nowadays, pretty much has microtransactions. Fortnite would not be doing as well as it is if it costed $60.
Well, he's actually
There's
technically
a
right
lot of
in
games
that aspect.
that are
Where's
supported
my
for
fucking mouse?
years
So I can pause
based
the video. So, every game pretty much has microtransactions. So this comes down to a few things. Okay, so microtransactions is basically DLC, downloadable content. And the effect of that is that all microtransactions is DLC, and all DLC is a microtransaction. That's just the reality of it. But even something like a pre-order bonus is objectively a microtransaction. You just don't have to pay for it. Or, you have to pay for it. You just got to pre-order it. There's the incentive to get that microtransaction. And thus, yeah. What this? This is a reaction video to... Let me minimize that. To microtransactions are good for video games, and let me explain why. Microtransactions done right. It's me reacting to this video from 5 years ago. All right, now, with that question answered, let's move on.
Solely on cosmetic microtransactions alone, and people will buy those if the game is good. If the game is not enjoyable, they will leave.
I really
and
like cel-shaded
the
games.
free-to-play game
I like that art
that they
style.
downloaded, they cannot play it anymore. I can't tell you how many times I have bought
I'll tell you, I don't
a
know what
video
this game
game
is,
for $20,
but I can tell you it's
$30,
cel-shaded.
$40, $50, $60, and I hated the game, but I could not return it because the PlayStation Store is stupid. Walmart is dumb. The game was opened.
Wait a minute.
Counter-Strike,
Did
CSGO,
he say
I know
there?
you guys know, I have bought in a video game for $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, and I hated the game, but I could not return it because the PlayStation Store is stupid. Walmart is dumb.
Well, that's
the
digital
game was
media
open.
within of itself. That's one of the
Counter-Strike,
biggest. I would say
CSGO, I know you.
one of the negative aspects of digital gaming is you're basically renting. You're not even buying. In fact, I have games on Steam, but I don't say that I own those games. I'm renting those games from Steam because that's objectively what it is. All I am doing is renting. This goes for any digital game, whether it's on a console, whether it's on the Epic Game Store. You're renting. You're not buying. You're renting because that's digital. And Most don't really allow you to return games, or their return is quite restrictive. All right. I know that there are some countries. I heard that, like, if you live in Australia, there's a better return policy for digital items. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you because I've never actually Googled it to confirm that.
You guys know what this game is. That game uses its gun skins to finance the developer's support. They're always adding things into the game, and many of these skins can sell for thousands of dollars. Yes, thousands and thousands of dollars. There was actually just an idiot that pissed away 62.
Which I would say that there's objectively no fucking way I would play a free-to-play game that was selling anything in it for over $20. Heck, even $15 is pushing it. Hell, I would say $10 is pushing it, especially if we're talking cosmetic. That is ludicrous within of itself, and that, in my opinion, makes that game garbage. Whether it's free to play, whether you can play the game and earn that stuff without feeling like it's a grind, to me that still makes the game garbage, and I objectively would not support that game for that price gouging reason.
Grand on a single skin, and you think I'm BSing you? It must be nice to have millions of dollars to spend $60,000 on a weapon skin on a video game. If you have that kind of money, then good for you. I
wonder how people actually do that.
I will not go ahead.
I've heard of like that
sort of money away on a video game.
Fucking game is.
But the $60,
it's like $1,000. I'm like, what fucking gamer just has $1,000 to waste on that kind of a microtransaction? Like, to put this in context, when I first started playing Facebook games back in the day, when I was a fucking idiot and I had my head shoved up my ass, I think I spent a total about maybe $200 on microtransactions. Okay, that's before I didn't like microtransactions. And yeah, even looking at that, it's like, man, $200. You know what the fuck that could have bought me? That could have bought me 4 games back in that day. 3 if we're looking at, $60 price range. If we're going to PlayStation 2 era, brand new, then we're talking roughly about 4. God. Talk about wasting money. That's right, Gamer Rant has done stupid shit like that in the past.
Retail games such as Destiny 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, those games cost $60. So if they are going to focus their game on microtransactions, no, that is not the type of microtransaction that I like. Even though some of those things,
so like I was,
are
earlier,
cosmetic,
I was laughing
a lot of the things
I could not get beside the fact that somebody would be like, I like microtransactions. But the fact that he makes that distinguish thought right there is that he does not agree with microtransactions in basically a paid game. I have more respect for him as an individual. If he wants to like microtransactions in a free-to-play game, knock yourself out. That's you. You do you. You be you. And the fact that he then also states later in the video that this should not be a thing in a single-player game or, quote-unquote, a game that you have to pay for, I give him more respect just for, that statement. Because most people, like the video I watched earlier today, just seemed like a corporate shield trying to defend microtransactions, whereas this individual is doing a far better job at articulating his personal opinion and thoughts on microtransactions, why he agrees that they should exist in some games, can exist and can be good, and how they also shouldn't exist in other games. Whereas the other video I watched earlier today was just, like I said, it felt more like a corporate shield type video. They were just defending microtransactions.
Side of those loot boxes are what they focus their video games on. Star Wars Battlefront 2's entire progression system is based off of microtransactions. The whole system was built from the ground up under the assumption that players would be making purchases to facilitate their progression. EA has received a lot of negative feedback from doing this, and publishers will hopefully use EA, to help them do
reminds me of
microtransactions
Borderlands.
correctly.
I wonder if that's what this game
Another
is.
perfect example that a lot of companies can
But then
learn
again,
from
I don't really
is
know,
our
'cause it looks
beloved
like there's other players, so I
Bungo
could totally
with
fucking be
Destiny
wrong.
2. Yes,
Like
I
I said,
am
it's
well
probably the
aware
cell
that Star
shaded
Wars Battlefront 2, EA,
that's
as
making
well
me
as
think it's,
Destiny 2, Bungie, have made changes to their
Borderlands.
microtransactions, and they are updating them to make everybody that has left negative feedback on their game try to actually like the
I've never
game,
played
even though
Fortnite,
it's
but
not
this
really
looks
working.
like Fortnite. But then again, I
But
could be wrong.
another one that I'm going to use as an example that does these incorrectly, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. The game uses its prequel's Nemesis interface, yet this time it's built around microtransactions. If these games were free to play, which I'm hoping a lot of these games in the future end up becoming free to play with a buttload of amazing microtransactions that I can piss away hundreds of dollars on. Those who have played the previous installment in
Oh, I mean, it still gets me that he's like, yeah, I piss away I piss away money on microtransactions. Oh man. Hey, you know what? At least he's admitting it. I'll give him that. Cracks me up though.
the franchise Shadow of War, also known as Middle-earth, could be disappointed by the new game's heavy emphasis on microtransactions. In order to build an army, players are encouraged to purchase in-game loot boxes, experience boosts, and war chests. The fact being, this is a single-player video game with microtransactions. So what is the point of buying them if nobody else is going to see those beautiful cosmetic items and you also paid $60 for this game? I like microtransactions in free-to-play games. I do not like them in games that cost $60 and then they focus their entire video game on microtransactions. I want a free-to-play game.
All right, so again, I can respect him for his opinion. He makes that clear separation that, hey, I like microtransactions, not me, him. And I like them in free-to-play games, not any game that I have to pay for. I like that distinction. All right. Like I said, I have more respect for him than the earlier video I watched where, yeah, that dude seemed like, it felt like he was an employee who has a YouTube channel and he's just brown-nosing. Oh.
That is very, very fun to play and will make me want to buy things in the game to support the developers for making an incredible game. So, if you guys don't agree with that, I don't know what to tell you, because I hate spending $60 on a video game, playing it, and hating it, and not being able to return it. That's just as bad as buying microtransactions.
So it does make me wonder.
Because you're pissing away.
It does make me wonder if there was an easier way to return these digital games that we could purchase, because, like he said, he didn't like it, so he wants to return it, that has microtransactions in it, would he still be more willing to accept those microtransactions if it would be easier to return those kind of games? That makes me think. Because then I would lose respect for him. Because, I sit there and I still iterate that microtransactions are bad. I would say they're even bad for multiplayer and online games. And that's because most of those publishers or developers abuse the system. And it's probably why I've never even given games that are considered not to be egregious at least a shot. Like, I'll probably never give Killer Instinct a shot just because I'd rather have a single-player fighting game than an online free-to-play garbage game in terms of, Killer Instinct.
$60 on a
Keep picking
video
up my
game
coffee cup
that
and it's
you will
empty.
never play again, and you're removing from your console, you're removing from your PC. If you want to go return it at Walmart, good luck. I like microtransactions. I want to support developers that make good video games. Fortnite, the game is doing amazing. I want to support them because they have a good game. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this most disliked video I will ever get on my channel. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to support.
I wonder, what is it actually at? I don't know. You're only like a little bit, but you're about 50-50. Probably not your most disliked video, but who knows? I didn't look at any of his other videos. You know what? I'm going to give him a like. Only because he made that distinguished thought between I like microtransactions in free-to-play games. I don't like them in paid-to-play games. Now, granted, his reason for that is because he can't return those games. So clearly he's buying them digitally. And even if you buy it physically, some companies, stores, GameStop, they make that a little difficult. They don't accept new game returns. But you can get trading credit. Oh. Why is GameStop failing? That could be one reason why. I'll admit I use CrapStop. But I use CrapStop because it allows me to kind of like pre-order certain games and use their system as kind of like a layaway, you know? So instead of putting all the money down at once, I can use it like a Kmart, or I think Walmart has it too. I don't know. I've never fucking used it. Layaway. Not that I've ever used Kmart layaway because they don't really exist at this moment in time, but my parents used it back in the day when it was a thing. I don't know when or if they stopped the layaway process when they changed their name to Big K. I have no idea why that. I think they changed their name because, you know, Kmart fall apart. That was something everybody said. And, you know, you can't really rhyme that with Big K. Though you can rhyme it with Walmart now. Walmart fall apart. So, this is basically what I actually did. Is I just did a search for why microtransactions are good. I already reacted to this video right here. That was the first live stream that I did. Oh yeah, see, there it is right there. There's the one I did. Oh no, I think that's the one I'm currently in right now. Never mind. Brain farting. Not paying attention. Oh yeah, there's the other one. So let's see. Can we find any other videos where people are like, microtransactions are the bomb? What if the free-to-play game server shuts down? Oh yeah, you know, I get that too. I understand what you're saying. Because, you know, I think what most people fail to realize is that, you know, like, you know, obviously some people realize that when you purchase a digital game, you're technically renting it. It's not actually owned. But then you think about, that's another reason why I don't play free-to-play games. It's probably because, you know, there's the possibility the server could shut down. There's definitely another reason why I would never put microtransactions into a free-to-play game, even if they weren't egregious, other than it going against my moral gaming code. That's money wasted when the game does eventually shut down. And it's like I would have basically got nothing out of it. As opposed to, say, like the complete edition for any physical game that I could go out and buy, and they have all the micro DLC and the expansion packs for said game. You know, like the Skyrim Anniversary, 20th, 80th edition, or whatever the fuck number they're at on that one. I can agree that microtransactions need to die. Oh, let me show you what I'm looking at. Let's see. Microtransactions explained. Mortal Kombat 11 grindy mobile tactics. Psh, you know what, Angry Joe? You bitch about this, but then, you know, you give their DRM a pass. So that makes you a fucking hypocrite in my book. Microtransactions are good for gaming. Seriously. All right, let's seriously watch this video.
Microtransactions are one of the most taboo subjects in games today. And that's because it fits into one of the little subsections of bandwagons that people like to jump on, whether that be microtransactions are bad, gaming used to be better, or frankly gaming is the cutest streamer on Twitch. But the thing is, microtransactions aren't that bad. And in fact, I think they're actually good for gaming. So stick around and hear me out, because
all right, well then hurry up and get to it.
Everyone, how bad microtransactions are and why they're ruining the gaming industry. I actually think they're one of the most innovative things and one of the best things we've seen in gaming in years.
I wonder if this guy works for a developing company.
Microtransactions are pretty predatory. And they really are. I mean, a lot of the things that game companies are trying to get you to buy nowadays, they're just trying to milk as much money they can out of you. Whether that's FIFA Ultimate Team or Overwatch loot boxes or Valorant skins. Every single company is trying to get as much money out of every one of their players as they can. And microtransactions is a way to do that. But the issue is that's not inherently bad. And there's a lot of pluses that come with microtransactions as well. So for instance, nowadays, something people don't like to mention is that a lot of the games we play and enjoy are free. The game I play the most nowadays, Valorant, is free. I used to play a lot of Fortnite. Free. Call of Duty Warzone, the biggest version of Call of Duty today, completely free. And that comes with a lot of pluses. One of those means you'll be playing with your friends a lot more. I have a lot of friends that are play games.
You know, the issue with that, though, would be that there's a reason why it's free to play. Because they could make more money from the microtransactions on it. So you have to ask yourself, did the developers, or in this case the publishers, decide to do it because of some kind of artistic representation or to make their bank account bigger? Because, you know, to me it's like they're definitely doing it to make their bank account bigger. Has nothing to do with an artistic representation of the game itself.
But aren't really into gaming, and if you tell them they have to spend any more than $10, that's probably a no.
Paying the pockets of these CEOs and developers barely see that money is good guy. Yeah, that's another thing that most of these people don't realize is that microtransactions go more toward the publisher than the developers. And even if we're looking at the developers, it's going to be the CEO or whoever's in charge of that developing company that's going to see more money from that than the low people on the totem pole. Not to mention that microtransactions are also divided on whatever system they're on. So Steam gets a cut. PlayStation, Microsoft, they get a cut. I don't know if there's microtransactions on Nintendo, but if there is, I'm sure they get a cut.
From them on a new game they could otherwise really enjoy and try out. Microtransactions allow companies to make a freemium game that almost 99% of the population can at least try. This means bigger player bases, more people for you to play against or play with, and more friends that would be willing to come try it out with you.
And like I said in my earlier video, the first one before this stream, I mentioned that Osman Gold reacted to a video talking about why most people that play MMOs play by themselves. So basically you're looking at people that play MMOs to play with other people is kind of like the minority rather than, you know, the big part of the game. Because I used to play MMOs before, you know, back in the day when it was a paid subscription. We're looking at World of Warcraft, My Lineage 2, even Star Trek Online. before they decided to go bullshit free to play with all their 5 billion bullshit microtransactions, which still irritates me because I paid fucking $60 for that goddamn game. And then I also paid a subscription to it, and now it's fucking free to play. God. It's like, fuck you. Fuck you. Oh, man. Going free to play. Oh. That's another thing that pisses me the fuck off, is when something like that happens. You know? It's like, if you wanted to be free to play, you should have started free to play. And granted, I get it that, you know, something like Star Trek Online has seen different developers and publishers over the years, that it's been in the works, but still.
Or bustling community that can really foster some fun moments. This means if you're playing a game and you have the disposable income, you can support more than ever. You can buy skins every time you enjoy them. You can buy battle passes for every season, and you can continually support a game that you enjoy playing. This means developers aren't super dependent on the first week sales of a game, making sure they can make enough money to go make another game in a couple years. Instead, they can create...
Okay. I'm going to touch more on this, okay? Here is a thought. If developers are not making enough money from the initial game sales, then why aren't indie games infested with microtransactions? They don't have a big budget. They have a smaller team. They don't make as much money from their games as opposed to a AAA developer. So again, if developers are hurting for money, why aren't indie developers dabbing in this pot of gold that is apparently microtransactions? And we're not talking mobile developers here. To which there are some mobile developers that don't have microtransactions in their games. They're definitely far rarer, but they do exist. I know because I have some of them on my phone. Because they're the only kind of mobile games I play. Outside of them, you know, kind of like any digital, like if I were to go and buy a game on Steam. That's the caveat to this. That's the only kind of mobile games that I myself play, are games that I actually physically have to put money towards that don't have microtransactions in it. Because I don't do free to play, and I sure as fuck am not buying a mobile game that has microtransactions in it. You can eat a dick. They should be asking the question how the OW2 devs couldn't afford to buy a second dev team to help them out on PvE mode when they were generating billions from the first game. So I take it that was some kind of controversy. Like they probably released the game broken or some shit, which wouldn't surprise me in this modern age of gaming. But yeah, that's my caveat to the excuse that this gentleman is perpetuating. Even the first video that I did, the same person perpetuated that same idea, that developers need to make money. Not to mention what, is that pronounced Ricing or Ricking? Ground 3 mentioned, is that, yeah, the developers don't really see that money. That goes towards the publisher. So, let's all remember when Electronic Arts used this statement, this excuse, they were the first ones. Microtransactions exist because we don't make enough money off the initial game sales. They are a publisher, so they're going to make money either way. The excuses gamers make is kind of baffling. And you know, this guy seems a bit of a brown noser to me. As opposed to the previous guy I was watching, at least he was like, hey, I like microtransactions. I like them in free-to-play games. I don't like them in paid games. I can respect him for that. So far, I'm not seeing me respecting this gentleman in this video.
Services that give them a constant and more reliable stream of income. A lot of people don't like to think about the business side of the gaming industry, just what it means for them. But for developers and workers at these companies, surely it's much easier to keep your job and keep doing work when there's a sustainable source of income. And not only that, but for certain jobs like artists.
Again, indie developers don't do it. So that objectively deflates that argument right there. And yes, I'm referring specifically to paid games that have microtransactions in them, not free-to-play games.
It gives you more to do. Previously in the gaming industry, a lot of artists would get fired on a job once all of their work was done on pre-production and developing the main game. And they would get picked up by...
That's not a fault of gamers. That's a fault of a poorly run business or way of doing business. Because why? At the end of the day, that has nothing to do with gamers. That has everything to do with the developers and the publishers, because it is cheaper for them to outsource than to have a stable employee. So again, that's the fault of the company, not gamers, or even this ludicrous idea of why microtransactions should exist, because a individual that works there could get fired at once the game's done. That's ludicrous.
A new studio that was in that phase. But now with microtransactions, for example, artists are constantly working. They're creating new skins, new environments, and things that players can get around and pay for that they're interested in. But it's not all just good, because the counterpoint to that would be that, well, it's predatory. It's forcing players to pay money for things that otherwise they shouldn't have to. Why can't I just pay $60, get my entire game, and I don't have to worry about spending hundreds of dollars to get all the cool skins I want? But that's just it. It doesn't matter. And that's why I'm so adamant in my belief here. You don't have to buy these skins. And now there's a big asterisk there, because games that are pay to win, where you can pay for services that give you an advantage in game, are assuredly bad. But I think if we're going to be honest with ourselves, nowadays, outside of the mobile gaming realm, that isn't a very big issue. Many companies like EA have already been shamed for things like this, and almost all microtransactions in big budget games and big games nowadays are limited to cosmetic only items. And it's there that I think it's such a great addition, because the thing is, you never have to actually purchase.
Granted, again, free to play, understandable, makes sense. But in a paid game, no. Even a single player game with a multiplayer aspect to it, objectively, no. I mean, cosmetic skins is the biggest fucking excuse for microtransactions. It's okay if it's cosmetics. And can anyone tell me what the price used to be of microtransactions back in the PlayStation 3 and 360 era compared to what they are today? I mean, there are developers out there releasing, well, I should say publishers, but one and the same thing, I guess. There are companies out there releasing $20, $30, $70 skins. Whereas back in the day, they were more so anywhere from, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe at most you would see them at $5 during the 360 PS3 era. And even then, that's still garbage within of itself, because most people fail to realize is that it felt more like developers taking stuff out that used to be in the game that the players could unlock by, finding or just playing the game.
These items. I'll give you a really good example. So what you guys are looking at right now is my Valorant gun collection. And for those of you who don't know, in Valorant, the game is free, but everyone starts with a pretty plain and boring looking gun.
This dragon one looks pretty
Now, you're allowed to buy skins, but they don't give you any inherent advantage besides just cool sounds as well as an interesting looking skin. The thing about Valorant is a lot of these skins are extremely expensive. So for example, this Vandal skin here, this entire set was over $100.
Now it can eat a dick. It's not that cool anymore.
This was 30. It's super expensive to actually buy the guns in Valorant. And as you guys can see, while this game is free,
I don't get this. I don't get this. Maybe it's just me. I'm all for free-to-play games. But, I mean, if there's egregious prices in it, there's no fucking way I would play that game. It does not deserve my support. Oh, that is just dumb. It's the whales, though. The whales. Gold horse armor, if I remember, used to cost $2.99 back in the day. If it was released today, it would cost $20. Yes, maybe even more. I mean, there's a few online games, even some single players that have, tried that $30, $35. And, the funny thing is most gamers aren't even batting an eye at it, They're no longer complaining, I guess is what the developers and publishers would probably label it as. Oh. Man, I just randomly I couldn't figure out what kind of video to do today. So I was like, you know what? Let me just type in microtransactions are good on YouTube and see what happens. I was honestly not expecting to find videos where people are defending it. And the first guy, oh my God, corporate shill. Corporate fucking shill all the way. He talks about how we shouldn't, they shouldn't do like pay to win, pay to make it easy. But then he completely deflates what he just said by saying that if they do an XP boost, that's okay. It's like, dude, that's pay to win, pay to make it easy, you dumb fucking retard. Or it's okay to give them money to increase your storage. That's an advantage from you to another player. Oh, man, the first guy, I have no respect for him. He's a fucking idiot. That's in my first part 1. It's not labeled part 1, but yeah.
Hundreds of dollars on the skins here. And a lot of people hear that and
I didn't notice there's a sniper
firing,
dragon
freaking
one.
out. You shouldn't be spending hundreds of dollars just to be getting skins. This is why gaming sucks nowadays.
It looks cool, but I guarantee you it's completely impractical.
The full game and the full experience.
Like any gunsmith probably would look at that and tell you exactly everything that's wrong with it and why it wouldn't work.
I didn't have to buy any of these skins. And I want to stress that one more time. I didn't have to buy any of these skins. I'm an adult, I have a full-time job, and I have disposable income. If I want to spend hundreds of dollars on fake little gun skins in a game, then I should be allowed to. Is that necessarily good?
You can if you want. It's your fucking money to waste. You're a fucking idiot if you do, but that's my opinion.
There's always going to be times where there's certain people, especially people that are into gambling and are very addiction heavy, they're going to get addicted to buying guns, wasting money, and throwing their life away into a game that doesn't even matter. But at the end of the day, the reason I think microtransactions are more good than they are bad is because that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if sometimes this can be predatory to people with gambling addictions. It doesn't matter if there's some kids that are getting control of a parent's credit card and spending copious amounts of money on these games. At the end of the day,
is this guy fucking for real right now?
If your kid is able to spend hundreds of dollars on Valorant and you're mad, maybe you should start looking into your parenting skills. Why do they have access to your credit card? How are they able to spend all that money? If you're an adult and you can't seem to stop...
I like how his argument there was like, yo, bro, you should be a parent. And it's like, I'm pretty confident that most of the people that are complaining and using that as a negative argument towards microtransactions aren't the ones that had their idiot child buying microtransactions. Oh, my God. All right. I based on what he just said, this guy's just as dumb as the first video that I watched. Yep. Oh my God.
Stop buying Valorant
Talk about
skins.
sucking that Electronic Arts
It's not
dick.
the game's job to baby us. It's not video game companies' job to make sure that if we have addiction
Tell me
issues
another
that
excuse.
we won't buy, and if we have anxiety that they don't put anything in the campaign that makes us feel bad.
Does this guy even fucking know how video games are developed? Like microtransactions, all that shit? Does he even know? Like loot boxes? Like he claimed that they're predatory, so he knows that. But then it's okay. Oh my fucking God. let's just see what he has to say.
It's not the job of companies to make sure we're always in a safe space or we're always feeling okay. If you have a gambling addiction or you're addicted to buying skins in your favorite game, you've got to figure that shit out. If you're an adult, and if you're a kid, then your parents probably need to figure that shit out. That's the honest truth. And the biggest reason...
And you're a fucking idiot. That's the honest truth. You're literally just sitting here making an excuse for why these companies are doing predatory things that you yourself admitted are predatory. And here you are now, getting on your knees, putting your mouth on their cock, deep-throating that shit, and letting them eject. That rocket was launched, and it landed on the fucking moon of stupidity. Oh my God. How old is this video? Because the first video I watched was 10 years old. The second one was 5 years old. 2 years old. God damn. Oh. I wonder what people are saying. Let me actually show you what I'm looking at. I agree with every single point in this video. Great video. Yeah, okay. No, they are not. Not in the slightest. I mean, even cosmetics. I think microtransactions are fine in free games, but if they're full priced with gambling mechanics... Honestly, gambling mechanics should not... Even if they're in free to play, that's a bad thing. It, like, blows my mind that he was like... He admits that, you know, they're egregious and that they're purposely trying to catch a specific type of person, but then he goes to further blame that individual rather than the company being able to take accountability and doing the morally right thing. Because as I've stated before, video games is an art form. Art objectively should not have literal accessories to the art. And when you look at cosmetics, pay to win, pay to make it easy, it's all accessory to the literal art. And they're not even like useful accessories. Like if we were to put this in context to a physical product, they are the useless accessories that don't really add any value to whatever it is you're buying. Anyway, let's unfortunately continue.
People nowadays don't like microtransactions in games is number one, it's predatory, but also number two, they just don't feel like it's right. Why can't we go back to just paying $60 for a game we enjoy and we get the full experience? But
well, no, it's not like that. I don't think it's like that at all. I don't think people really have this concept that, hey, maybe we need to go back to just paying for games themselves, because this concept of what we call a free-to-play game has existed before the term microtransactions appeared in the video game vocabulary. Even before micro DLC became a thing within the video game vocabulary. Free-to-play games and, you know, microtransactions, what we would call microtransactions today, existed back in the day, and they weren't as egregious. I think that's more or less what people would like to go back to, is when free-to-play games, at least the vast majority of them, mostly felt entertaining and fun, even with this free-to-play style of purchasing cosmetics and whatnot. I think that's what people would rather be, not actually we need to go back to just buying single-player games.
It isn't really like that in most games. Most games, you do get the full experience. And not for $60, but zero. I could have spent not 1 cent on Valorant, and I would have been completely fine. It would have been the same exact game. The same goes for Warzone. The same goes for Fortnite and almost all big freemium games nowadays. That's not the issue. We have more players playing more games than ever. It's easier to have your friends join because they don't have to lay down the money and maybe lose it on something they wouldn't enjoy otherwise. Microtransactions allow more gamers to play and give companies more options to monetize a product. That way they can continue to grow their brand and pay their employees. And at the end of the day, that is going to come with some issue.
All right, like, if we're talking in context of free-to-play games, that makes sense because they're going to have to make money. All right? But there's no argument that you could ultimately make for the egregious prices of those microtransactions. And I would also state that him not purchasing any of those egregious microtransactions, as he's claiming in this video, is him still supporting microtransactions. I think a lot of gamers don't realize that, is that you don't have to buy microtransactions to support microtransactions, especially egregious microtransactions. Your very presence of playing that game is the acceptance of those microtransactions and the prices that they are sold at, regardless if you ever dive into that dark little rabbit hole for that particular game.
And like I've already said, that's mainly just the fact that it can be predatory, and for some people, microtransactions can result in horrible things in their life. They're losing a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I think things that
like,
microtransactions
this guy
do
sits here and he's talking about a little earlier, like, hey, this is business. It's like, do you understand how this business actually runs? Do you understand how any corporation fucking runs? Because that's who's making the money, the big money from these microtransactions. It's PlayStation, Microsoft, Steam. Again, I don't know if any Nintendo games. I'd imagine that any third-party Nintendo games probably have microtransactions in them. But so that means Nintendo would make revenue from that. And then, of course, the big thing here is a publisher would make money from that. So another thing is, I don't know if anyone ever remembers, back in the day, Level 5, which they're quite respected for creating such games as the Professor Layton, Dark Cloud 2, Rogue Galaxy. Some of those were on the PlayStation 2 era. More recent, such as like Neo no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, and the sequel to that. They actually released a game called White Knight Chronicles. And both the first game and the second game had massive microtransactions in them. Like, we're talking like over $200 worth of microtransactions in them. And this was from a developer that many people respected. So people actually started to send messages to the actual Japanese developer like, yo, WTF. And they were like, hey, we're sorry, but this was a requirement of the publisher that we put microtransactions in the game. So, again, what this gentleman is also failing to realize is that just because a game itself has microtransactions in it doesn't necessarily mean it was even planned by the developers. It may have been a requirement from the publisher. And let's think about this in another context. Like, does a game like FIFA and Madden really need microtransactions in it in order to make money? No. Once again, if the indie developers aren't doing it, why are the big guys doing it if they're hurting for money? That's because they're not hurting for money. They just see a predatory way to create more money. And the fact that this gentleman right here would acknowledge that they're predatory, but then basically put all the blame on the individual and not the person who's being predatory. I'm going to give you an example of just how fucking dumb this motherfucker sounds. All right? The reason why women get raped is because, well, they probably should put more fucking clothes on. That's kind of an outrageous example, but you get what I'm saying. It's the same fucking thing. It's utterly fucking stupid to put the blame on the victim. Right, well, you know, if you're a woman, you probably should wear more clothes and you wouldn't get raped. It's like, nah, that's not how this works. That's not how microtransactions work either. Oh, man. So far out of the 3 videos I've watched, the second guy definitely has more. I have more respect for him than these other 2 that I've watched so far. At least he doesn't seem to have screws completely loose in his noggin.
The industry are so much greater, because you have to keep in mind that gaming is still a business. All of these great games that, let's be honest, your nostalgia glasses.
All right, you can sit here and say that we have to be reminded that video games is a business. But here's a fun fact for anyone watching right now. If you have a Netflix subscription, you can actually go on Netflix, and there is a series on there that talks about certain video game companies. They actually have a segment about Electronic Arts. I think it's maybe 30 minutes long. I can't quite remember. And it basically goes over the history of why and how Electronic Arts started. I took the time and I watched it, and I was like, holy shit, dude. Electronic Arts has gone so far away from why they originally started that it's laughable at best. Because what most people fail to realize is that when an individual decides to start a business, their idea is not, I want to make money. You look at Electronic Arts, the reason why they started is they wanted to make more realistic sports games. The idea of money was just a secondary thing that could happen if they were successful in that. You look at any business. It doesn't even have to be the video game industry. For example, there's an Italian restaurant where I live called Nello's. The individuals there actually ran the business in San Francisco like years ago, all right? And they later retired and moved to the medium tiny town that I live in, and they realized that there was no authentic Italian restaurants here. So they went unretired, and they were like, we're going to make an authentic Italian restaurant in this town. What was the reason behind that? Not money, because they wanted to create a restaurant that was authentic Italian for this town. Money was just the secondary caveat that they would get if it was successful. That's what this gentleman is failing to realize. You can look this up for any fucking gaming business. Not one of them started because they wanted to make money.
Had to be built by a company. They had to make money, and they had to pay their employees. And I think it's easier now than ever in an industry that's getting more and more expensive to build in every year, the gaming industry, to monetize with microtransactions. And if that means players,
this is another thing that people conflate. Is they talk about how, games cost more money, the teams are bigger. It's like, well, yeah, that's just inflation. Most people fail to realize that inflation does not have, it's not just has to do with money. It is also contextual for other aspects of any business. Because if you were to travel back in time to say like when early fast food restaurants started to appear, I guarantee you they had less employees than what they have now. That's what we call inflation, ladies and gentlemen. All right. With greater demand comes greater increase in employees and product. So I don't really see how this is some kind of mic drop fucking excuse for microtransactions. Because it's not. It's inflation. That's all it is. And just because games were quote unquote cheaper to make back in the day with less team is objectively irrelevant. That's just an excuse you're perpetuating for why majority of games are released broken today.
For no entry fee at all, and more players can play together on more systems, I think that's a good thing. And it's, once again, not the job of players or gaming commentators or anyone else but yourself to make sure that you aren't losing yourself.
You're a fucking idiot. You're objectively wrong.
At the end of the day, I spent hundreds.
You are just sucking that microtransaction dick. Watched 3 videos. 2 of them, both the people were idiots. I'm actually done with this guy. Okay. I'm going to see if I can find another one. Let's see. Microtransaction. Maybe I should I watch a video that's the opposite of what we've been watching, or try and find another one? This is the video that we watched earlier. Try to find another one. If not, watch the opposite. Yeah, this guy's an idiot. And where's that other one? It's somewhere up here. Oh yeah, this guy's an idiot too. Am I the only one who kind of gets irritated that when you search for something specific in a search bar and it's bringing up videos that have nothing to fucking do with what you're searching? Oh. I get so irritated when that happens. Welcome to microtransaction hell. Why game companies stop making games. How money works. Welcome to modern YouTube. Exactly. 30 frames a second is bad. I don't know about you, Dreamcast guy. I don't know about you. I like Happy Console Gamer. He doesn't really talk that much about microtransactions and whatnot. He mostly focuses on the more positive side of gaming. But I would say that he probably has his head on straight more than Dreamcast guy does. What to do about microtransactions? Microtransactions killed gaming. Microtransactions ruined gaming. How microtransactions took over the gaming industry. What went wrong with gaming? Microtransactions. Why Destiny 2 is genuinely a bad game. You're a fucking idiot if you don't like microtransactions. That's got to be the opposite of what we're looking for. I guarantee you that it's probably something this douchebag said, not the actual person in the video. The microtransaction problem. Why microtransactions are so big in gaming. Microtransactions killed gaming. Microtransactions are good. 2 dudes and a cup. I'm not sure I want to even click on that, all right? They have no views, so I don't think I'm going to give them that repertoire of 1 view, because I know what 2 girls in 1 cup is. So, yeah. Are microtransactions good or bad? So this is probably kind of like in the middle. It's like in the middle. It's basically asking the question. How long is the video? 8 minutes? Let's check it out.
Yo guys, what's going on? Frozen Light here, back in some more gaming content for you guys, and today we're playing Black Ops 3 Team Deathmatch. Let's fucking go. But my Wi-Fi has been pretty fucking shitty, so we're gonna see how that fucking goes. But that's not the topic for today. My Wi-Fi is not the topic, even though I have to get that fixed. But anyways, the real topic here is microtransactions. Now, for those of you who don't know what microtransactions are, they're basically things that you just buy in games. Some of them can be useful, some of them can be just skins, some are just like accessories for your characters, accessories for things, like all this type of stuff. Such as in GTA, you could buy shark cards, you could buy like $50.
What gamer doesn't know what the fuck a microtransaction is? I think that comes down to needlessly making your video longer.
Dollars worth, and that'll give you like $2 million or some shit like that. I forgot what it really was, but that's just an example right there. As well as in Halo 5, there was also a rec point system, which still is in the game. I don't know why I said it like that, but it's in the game, and basically what you do is you buy these rec points. Well, actually, you don't buy the rec points. You just buy the actual fucking packs. So instead of buying like gold pack, which is the highest one out of the whole entire thing, because there's bronze, silver, gold, and most of the time you're just going for gold, and gold is like 10,000 points, or you could just pay $3 for it. Now, some people just spend the $3. They're just like, fuck it, right? Just fuck it. $3? Who cares? Now, take that and do that 10 times. And that's $30. That's half a game, people. And just to mind you, this is all for basically just armor, weapon skins, like
dude, that's
helmets.
What also,
like, this isn't really important
when it comes
shit.
to microtransactions, is the amount of money people spend on microtransactions. It's like, do you know how many fucking movies, how many fucking video games, how many fucking books you could have bought? How many times you could have went out to eat with all the money you put into microtransactions? At least everything I described is something that you can get out of it. But what do you get from microtransactions other than an empty fucking bank account?
Now, maybe some of you guys are like, oh, but I really like buying this. Well, then go ahead, buy the stuff. But it's just not useful, and it's just a way to get money out of us, and it's scamming these kids. Because I know that it's not just like adults that are like, oh, I'm buying this to better advance myself into the game or look better in the game, whatever.
Okay,
it's
so that was clearly a clickbait
kids
title.
buying the shit, and that's what's bad about this. These companies are like, oh, dude, fuck it. We have all these young kids playing our games, and like, let's just take all their fucking money from them, yo. Like basically, like, it just doesn't. It's not good. It's not good for the community, and it's been happening for the past 2-3 years. That it's really been like picking up the most, I would say, and that's just something that shouldn't even be happening. That's really just okay. Can I get up here?
Just one caveat. This guy from the previous guy, you want to know what he's not doing? Making excuses or putting the blame on the individual who purchases the microtransactions. I can't believe that motherfucker. You need to check yourself. That's the problem with microtransactions. You need to check yourself. If you got a problem buying them, it's your fucking fault. Yes, they're predatory. I'll admit that, but it's still your fucking fault. Oh my fucking god, that guy. That fucking guy.
Everyone this dead, of course. And before anyone says anything, DK Records did make a video about this, so I don't want to be like, copying about this. I just thought the idea was really good, and I really wanted to make a video about this for a while, and he already made one, so I just want to give credit to him where credit is due, I guess. So I'm going to leave his channel in the link in the description below. You guys can go check him out. He's an awesome YouTuber, does a lot of great shit. Just want to say that out of, just saying that. So definitely go check out his channel, and yeah. But anyways, getting back to the topic of microtransactions, some of these games, aren't so bad with them. Halo 5 isn't so bad with them. It's still, stealing your fucking money out of your pocket, basically, and just throwing it down the fucking toilet.
Well, that's kind of hypocritical. You can't sit there and say that it's not that bad, but then follow that up with it's still kind of like stealing money from your pocket. It's like, I don't think you thought that sentence out very well, bro. Because there's no way that you can sit there and say in one caveat, it's not that bad, but then in the next caveat be like, it's pretty fucking egregious, though. Because it's like, that's the opposite of what you just said earlier, bro.
but still you're paying for really just no advancements in like your gaming, you know, like you're not better than any other player because you have the best armor or something like that, you know. It really doesn't make a difference. You don't gain stats because of it or something. You just play with it. It just
man,
looks
if
cool.
humans could really
so those don't really mind as much as some of the higher ones, like such as if you go into let's say CS:GO, which is a big one, but I honestly like the videos where they buy the cases. Those are really fucking cool. But it also is a waste of money when you really think about it, you know. I don't know. CS:GO is actually a pretty tough one to say because then again, you can also make your money back. It's almost like gambling. And I don't know. I really don't feel it's necessary to be purchasing them. I feel like there should be an easier way to just earn the cases. But I guess that one's kind of up in the air, so I can't really talk too much about that. Now, ones I can talk about
one thing
are
I've
such ones
from
as
most,
advanced
like cosmetic microtransactions, is that most of them aren't even that fucking cool looking. Oh, that's the one thing I've noticed. You know, now granted, there was the previous idiot that we watched, and I thought the dragon guns were cool looking. All right, impractical but cool looking. Utter garbage when he said they're quite expensive. So, yeah, there's that one for you.
Warfare and what they did for their supply drops. Now, they're still even going about it like it's normal, like it's fine. And the reason for this, most of the time, is because a lot of YouTubers, like, such as big name, like T Martin, Ali A, like a bunch of other YouTubers, obviously, missing a lot, but I'm just saying a lot of YouTubers will spend an enormous amount of money because they just have some laying around cash, whatever. And that's fine. They could do whatever they want with their money. I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying it's basically saying like, here's my money.
That's another thing that I think most people fail to
it's like saying,
microtransactions. It's not just whales that are purchasing microtransactions. It's big ass YouTubers. You can actually Google that, and there's people that have a video like, I spent $5,000, I spent $10,000 in microtransactions in insert game. I'm like, you fucking serious? I was like, these are garbage YouTubers that I'm never going to watch. That's why whenever I come across a YouTube video and I get an ad, and it's one of those fake ass mobile games where the person's like, I'm gonna do this, or they're like doing a loot box in the game, and they're like, come on, give me some, yeah. I'm like, that's pre-recorded, motherfucker. I seen someone reacting to that same segment that you're reacting to, and it's like the fact that you would lower yourself to a level to get money from a mobile game. There's no fucking way I would do that. No fucking way. I'd be like, no, thank you. I would probably then do a video criticizing and ridiculing the company for even get a hold of me on YouTube. Be like, they're fucking idiots if they think I'm gonna advertise to you this mobile garbage microtransaction infested game. But there are some people out there that are just like, give me the money.
A lot of people will also do this because I do it, you know, and just like, and I know that's probably not true completely, but I'm saying if you see someone else, like a big YouTuber that you watch and are inspired by, like, you're gonna be like, oh, maybe I should buy some supply drops or something like that. You know, you're influenced by them to go and do that type of stuff, and it's not good because, yeah, you're getting advancements into the game, and that's fucking terrible. But I guess it's helping you out in a way that, you know, it's not a loss of money. But at the same time, it's not right for all the other players who are in the game.
You know, it's still just a digital item at the end of the day. A digital item that has no value or add any real value to the game itself. Except maybe within what we could call that moment. But then it's gone. You know? It's kind of like the excitement of playing a lottery scratcher and just kind of winning your money back instead of losing it. That's kind of the excitement that I equate that to.
And there's some people out there who actually like spend hours upon hours. Like, I can't tell you how much hours I put into certain games that I've just been like, like, this is fucking amazing. Like, I love this game. I'm putting so much hours into it. I'm getting so many good guns and stuff like that. And it's fucking awesome. And there is some people who can't spend that amount of time because of work, because of, like, certain things that they got going on, certain events and stuff like that. And that sucks for them. It really does. And I feel bad for them. And yes, these microtransactions, I would say, would help them in a way to catch up on those games. But it really, like, that's just an easy way to get out of, like, saying, oh, we're just selling these because it's for the people who are just doing that. No, it's not. And I don't want to be running my mouth about this for, like, a certain amount of time because it is fucking bullshit. But I just...
All right. I think he's just kind of mostly repeating himself now, so... Let's see... 10 worst microtransactions in recent games... Diablo 4, gaming isn't fun anymore. Why microtransactions are actually good for gaming. Okay, yeah, they're the April Fools. 10 insulting microtransactions. 8 video games ruined by microtransactions. Honestly, it's actually kind of refreshing not seeing a lot of these kind of defense videos. So far, I've only found 3 of them, and out of the 3, only one of the people didn't have their head up their ass. Microtransactions are good for gaming. What is this? It's a short. I don't know. I'm feeling like I'm gonna get trolled if I clicked it. Okay, let's check out this 30-second short.
Come back and remind us why we hate it. Marvel's Avengers, that one Final Fantasy. Can't forget the times it's done magnificent. Destiny 2, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warframe. These games have given us great content and fantastic experiences for years. Either buy the little costume or don't.
Hello, Bill Bones.
Microtransactions are here to stay, and I'm glad. Y'all might hate me for this one. All that hate and negativity that you hold in your heart for microtransactions, they gotta go. I understand why we all was fighting it in the beginning, but at this point, it's okay. A couple of games come back and remind us why we hate it. Marvel's Avengers, that one Final Fantasy. Can't forget the times it's done magnificent. Destiny 2, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warframe. These games have given us great content and fantastic experiences for years. Either buy the little costume or don't, but microtransactions are here to stay, and I'm glad. Y'all might hate me.
I don't hate you, but you are an idiot. Oh, microtransactions used to be worst, thankfully. Call of Duty doesn't paywall new guns anymore, which is great. I mean, he's free to have that opinion, but I still think he's an idiot. And just an idiot for that context of what he was talking about. Not like an idiot in general, all right? Even I've said some pretty fucking dumb shit in my time, especially on YouTube. I've had my idiot moments. Shoving my head up my ass like some of these people we've seen in these videos. There are idiots out there online for sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, that is true. Let's see. Microtransactions. Good, bad, the ugly. My opinion of microtransactions. So we can assume that he's going to give us the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I actually do enjoy that movie, Clint Eastwood. It is kind of slow. I didn't really care for it growing up. Maybe just because I got a little bit older, so I took more time to watch that Clint Eastwood. The good, the bad, the ugly. How long is this video? 24 fucking minutes. Well, I ain't doing anything today.
Hey everyone, this is a Chibi Hour, and now this video I wanted to talk about microtransactions and give my thoughts on them. And this is my own opinion, and if you have your own thoughts on microtransactions, I'd like to know your thoughts as well. But just starting off with this video, I do want to say one thing. Like, I know that a lot of people are very against microtransactions, and they feel like they shouldn't be in the games in general, but I'm going to be a little real here and say...
Here's my definitive, okay? Pay to win, pay to make it easy. utter garbage, should not exist in a game. A game that you pay for should not have it. If there's any kind of multiplayer, I would also say, it comes with a single and a multiplayer. I would say it still doesn't need it. Just do expansion packs. Not that fucking hard for the multiplayer or the single player campaign. As opposed to, say, a free-to-play game, it's okay. Unfortunately to that, most are egregious within of itself. And again, for example, because we watched the gentleman, he had his head up his ass, but he was talking about the game that he was playing, where he unlocked a bunch of cosmetics by not spending any money. To that, I would say, show me your account to prove it. Because I don't know if I can take your word for it, seeing as how you defended microtransactions. That you didn't buy any, bro. Yeah.
Say that I can understand that some of the games that are created take a lot of time and money, and they have to pay their employees and stuff like that. And just selling the game and having like a season pass.
Say it again. This has nothing to do with paying employees, because again, most people don't realize the breakdown of how this works, especially with microtransactions. So the publisher gets some, whatever system it's on, whether we're talking Epic, Apple, PlayStation, Microsoft, it's going to get split with them as well. And of course, when it does hit the developing team, it's not literally going to hit the developing team. It's going to hit the corporate person running that developing team. It's going to go in his bank account. So, I don't really know why people make that argument. I'm probably going to have to say that till the day I die. Or I no longer do YouTube videos. Take your pick.
It's not always good enough. And microtransactions are thrown in there, to help them out to either, pay these employees to continue working or to work on their next installment of whatever that they're working on. And, I can understand that with some games, having microtransactions to help out with that. But, some games don't do microtransactions at all, and it's pretty nice when they don't do it at all, and they work around that with having more unlocks and stuff, like things that you can do inside the game to get the things that would probably be considered microtransactions in other games. But in my opinion, whenever there's microtransactions in games, there's things that I like about them to make them feel fair and like where it actually feels optional. And there's some games that really ruin it and make it feel like it's a must-have, or they make it so annoying and broken that you never really get what you're trying to get out of the money that you're spending on. Like trying to get a certain thing inside of the RNG-based, supply drops in Call of Duty, or just like recently with Destiny with the Dawning, trying to get a full set of armor by just spending $20 because that's all you wanted, or something
if he had like
that.
A bullet point timestamps for when he's talking.
There
about
are some
the good,
games
the
that'll
bad,
be
the
like
ugly,
referencing and talking about like what are good ones in my opinion and what are bad ones. But let's start off with just generalizing like the ones that I feel like are good, and we'll talk about the bad stuff afterwards. But coming with like some games with microtransactions, the RNG based stuff is probably the one that's like always kind of like back and forth with a lot of people's opinions. Some people absolutely hate it, and some people pretty much like it because it gets more excitement out of it. In my opinion, I don't mind RNG based microtransactions as long as it's kind of fair and the game doesn't have over like thousands of different things and it's almost impossible to get the thing that you want. Like if you want a perfect example of how RNG based loot is a good thing or works in a somewhat good way, Overwatch. You can get loot boxes pretty easily now compared to back then, which is a really positive thing because sometimes games will do the opposite. They'll make it harder to get the things that you want, so then they force you to basically be like, yeah, if I'm going to want to get this thing, I'm going to have to spend extra money. But instead, if you actually play the game and stuff and do arcade and get your wins and stuff, you get a loot box automatically, and that's amazing because leveling up to get a loot box is pretty annoying. It takes a long time to level up in Overwatch if you don't.
Can we all just be on the same page that no matter how you get a loot box, whether you can earn it or you have to pay for it, it's garbage.
Play it, non-stop as like your only game. And how the RNG works is that if you get duplicates, you get some gold, and that gold can be spent on to whatever that you didn't get that you really wanted. And I will say that, when you get, sprays and stuff, like little duplicates of that stuff. You don't get much gold. You don't get much gold in general, but at the same time, I haven't really had any occasions before I started spending on microtransactions of not getting things that I actually wanted. I was getting a lot of skins that I actually, would use, and, as I've been playing over time, I'm getting stuff here and there, and I've heard a lot of my friends also getting a lot of stuff, and they play for free, like they don't spend any extra cash.
Oh, hey,
but,
I just got an idea.
I'll start talking about bad,
That's right. I'm not going to finish this. He's taking too long. My patience can be quite long, but sometimes it's quite thin. Let's change this, the word microtransaction, with a loot box. See if there's anyone defending loot boxes. If I could spell loot box right, that'd be nice, right? That might help Google figure that one out. The loot box question. Designing ethical loot boxes. Oh, hey, this is the guy I watched earlier. Like, he's the very first video I did. And I came to the conclusion that he's a corporate shill. Now I have to watch this video because I'm curious.
There is a lot wrong with the way our industry does loot boxes. We've seen loot box systems that are game-breaking, others that are exploitative, some that are even downright unethical. And if that has made you wary of this monetization model, I can't blame you. But I'm not sure I'm on board with the demands to eliminate the model entirely, or even to never put them in $60 games. It's complicated. Let's talk about it. To start, let's review why the industry is turning to supplemental monetization models like loot boxes. If you've watched our previous 2 episodes, you'll recall that player expectations for AAA game fidelity and the cost of building games to meet that fidelity standard have been on the rise for years. And yet the purchase price for a AAA game remains locked at $60, regardless of rising costs or inflation. And that's starting to get untenable. If you want to learn more about that, I recommend checking these 2 episodes out later. The ultimate dilemma, though, is that AAA studios need to see higher profits to match the higher costs, but they can't do so by raising prices. James was at a convention a few weeks ago, and he asked the audience, how many of you would buy just as many games each year if they cost $80? 2 people out of an audience of hundreds raised their hand, and that is what the games industry is afraid of. And so they've been exploring supplemental revenue models to make up the difference. We've tried subscription fees and DLC, microtransactions, season passes, and collector's editions, but our most successful experiment so far is loot boxes. And it's not that surprising that they're so successful. They're basically the video game equivalent of a Magic the Gathering booster pack. And the thing you gotta know about Magic booster packs is that for a very long time, they were the highest
Magic booster pack? Did this motherfucker just use an example as like a booster pack for a physical card game to a fucking loot box? Because that kind of reminds me of EA and a Kindred. A Kindred egg. Oh, at least he's not disappointing. He's still a fucking idiot.
Earning per user monetization item in all of gaming. It's a time-tested and extremely successful model. Now, obviously, the benefits of this model for the developer are huge. Loot box content...
Yeah, but the difference between that is that this has no value towards the actual game, whereas if you play any kind of trading card game, there's a physical item that you can actually get. There's also the potential that you end up getting a card that could be worth actual money, either at that time or in the far future. So ultimately, it's a poor example within of itself because the value is not there for the garbage we're looking at right now, as opposed to an actual trading card game where you could invest money in it and there's still the potential that you may be able to make some money back. For example, if you ever decide to stop playing the trading card game, then you may have some rare cards in your collection that you could sell that will either make all that money back or the majority of it.
Is generally far less expensive to produce than DLC or expansions, and the possibility for duplicates inevitably means that players will end up purchasing more content than the devs actually make. Done well, it handily solves that $60 price tag problem. And I would argue that this benefits players in some significant ways as well. I see a lot of people complain that games with loot boxes are trying to make everybody pay hundreds of dollars to enjoy the game, but it's actually the exact opposite case. Some players being willing to spend hundreds of dollars on these games is what makes it easier for the industry to sell these games at the more affordable $60 price.
Why am I watching this guy again?
Those big loot box spenders are subsidizing that $60 price tag for the rest of us. And obviously game companies aren't doing that out of the kindness of their hearts. Higher profits are unquestionably their goal, but this is functionally what a successful supplemental profit model like loot boxes achieves. Games of increasing scale and fidelity sold at the same standard price, keeping those games affordable.
That's not a problem for the gamers, though, and that isn't something that the publishers or developers should be putting that weight or that responsibility on the gamers themselves. All right? Because if you want to sit here and use the excuse that, once again, they're not making enough money, that's why loot boxes and microtransactions exist, which objectively is an inaccurate statement, because why aren't indie developers doing it? That breaks his argument completely, objectively. And he can sit there and say, well, you know, indie developers, they got a smaller team. They make more like 2D games. And it's like, I don't really see a difference between 2D and 3D. I don't see a difference between 3D, cel-shaded, and 2D. All right? Something costing something more or less is irrelevant when we're talking doing something good and correctly.
Affordable for more of us. And the same principle applies in the free-to-play space. I have personally gotten to enjoy hundreds of games for free because other players were paying the developer's salary by buying loot boxes and card packs. That is a fantastic thing that I would never want to see go away. But that subsidy should be freely given. I have got no qualms with...
Here's what I was telling you earlier, is that there's more than one way a person can support microtransactions. He just named it right there. He supports microtransactions. He says he doesn't buy them, but he does support them. Which is kind of hypocritical when you think about it, but that's neither here nor there.
Rich folks throwing tons of money at these games so the rest of us can play affordably, especially if the content they're buying is strictly cosmetic in nature, but only if they are not being conned into spending money they can't afford. And that is where this gets more complicated. Because frankly, despite all of that positive stuff I just said, a lot of companies are deploying loot box systems that are exploitative. There are games out there using everything we know about the human brain to try to get people to spend money they don't have, and that is a legit capital P problem. Now, there are some common myths around this that need dispelling. First, you'll hear some claiming that these games are preying on children, trying to get them to spend tens of thousands of their parents' money, but this is actually very rare. It makes for a good news story, so every time it does happen, we hear about it. There are also consumer...
I like how he says rare, but not inaccurate. How do you... corporate shill for a corporation without literally just saying you're a corporate shill? You make a video like this.
Protections in almost every affluent country at this point, which force game companies to refund purchases made by minors if a parent requests it. Most game companies actually hate having to deal with children purchasing their stuff because it just creates so many headaches. That said, anybody who is doing this, that is actual evil. I can't believe I have to say this sentence, but don't prey on children, please. The second, and much more common discussion point you'll hear is that loot boxes are gambling, or are at least similar enough to gambling that they'll either cause gambling addiction, or at the very least prey on those vulnerable to gambling addiction. This needs more study. It may well be true, but the only major study I've seen on the matter didn't find that to be the case. Both legally and psychologically, there's an important distinction between gambling and non-gambling.
How old is this video? Because I remember quite a few YouTubers talking about other studies 5 years ago, so quite outdated. That didn't age well.
And that is the ability to cash out. Because you can't take your rare Overwatch skin and sell it back to Blizzard for actual spending money, the experience affects us differently. Video game loot boxes are less like craps and roulette and more akin to a crane game, or a blind box, or the raffle for prizes at the county fair. At least that's what the science seems to suggest right now. Again, this requires a lot more serious study. I've seen a number of psychologists voice their personal opinions, some saying, of course it's gambling, others saying, of course it's not gambling, but really it just reinforces the point. We need to actually scientifically look into this, and on a large scale. Because if loot boxes and booster packs and such are causing or triggering actual gambling addiction, that is something...
But it is. It's already been proven. Your 5-year-old video did not age well, bro.
We need to know about. And if they're not, that's something we need to know too, because constantly insisting that they are could lead to a whole host of legal problems that I don't have time to get into today. But in either case, a lot of game companies are making use of B.F. Skinner's research on compulsion mechanics to create their payout schedules for loot boxes, which is the same research slot machine companies use. We can do better than that. In fact, we have to do better than that. We can make getting a loot box feel rewarding without using psychological tricks to try to manipulate players into buying more of them. Now, in the limited amount of real research that there has been on this, I have found one thread that really does sadden me. Rather than gambling addiction, those people who spend too much money on loot boxes were actually found to be suffering from some form of social anxiety or social pressure. Those who spent money they couldn't afford to often did so because they felt like they were going to let their guild down if they didn't, or because they feared they would lose their top dog status and feel humiliated if they didn't keep paying. This is something that much of the industry does still lean heavily into when designing these, and that is wrong. That is something...
You could still argue that that's still a form of gambling. They're just, it's just a different form. They're, instead of getting their kicks on winning, they're getting their kicks on being accepted.
We should never do. Be on the lookout for that stuff, because especially in the mobile and the free-to-play world, that kind of predatory approach has become so common it's almost taken for granted today. At the end of the day, I don't have a problem with loot boxes as a monetization model, even in $60 games. When designed ethically, the loot box model allows rich folks to pay more money so the games...
moron. And this moron has 2.7 million subscribers. Probably because his other videos aren't full of such stupidity, I hope. Let's see, is that the only one defending loot boxes? Why loot boxes are ruining video games. Yeah, see, look at this. Like, just searching for microtransactions and loot boxes up in YouTube, I must say it's nice to see that there's more people that are against it than being a corporate shill. Anyway, I've been looking at these kind of videos for an hour and 47 minutes, so I think I'm going to end this live stream right here and say that it's good. Probably in about, I want to say maybe 20-30 minutes, I'll be doing another live stream, but I'll be playing probably Elden Ring or a video game. I don't know. I just know I'll be playing a video game on my PC. So I'll see you in that amount of time because I need to go get some more coffee. All right. I'll see you either then or in the next recorded video or the next